Is it time for a smart composter? Welcome back to Techstination. I'm Fred Fishkin. Joining us from Thinkware is National Sales Manager Billy Alexandre. Hi, Billy.
Hey, Fred.
Well, Thinkware is a company, I guess, best known for dash cams, but this is something different. You've got a new brand, Blue Vent, and a product called MUMU, if I'm saying it correct. Tell us what it's all about.
Yeah, for sure. So MUMU is actually a food composter. And so what it does, it will manage your food waste for you. So a lot of the time, when you're cooking food and you're dealing with produce, vegetables, you end up with a lot of trimmings and parts you don't really need. And one really good way to manage those food waste is to have a food composter like MUMU. So you throw your food in there and it will actually compose it for you and it'll reduce the amount of waste that is normally resulting from carrying those type of food waste.
And this machine is smart. Step us through how it's used.
Yeah, so we use some pretty smart algorithm in the machine. So we have what we call AI. So we have an AI mode for storage. So when you put food into the MUMU food processor, it will not necessarily turn on right away. So we have a different profile mode based on how big your family is. If you are only maybe a 2-person household or 3 or 4-person household, it will determine the weight that is needed for the food composter to start grinding. And so that is one of the measurements that MUMU takes into account is how big the family is, because we don't want the machine to just be turning on randomly and to just use energy needlessly. We just want to make sure that when you put the right amount of food in, then this is when the food composter will start. That way, we really minimize the amount of energy that is being used throughout the process. And then some other algorithm that we have is also for managing food waste, because it might not be starting right away to compose and process the food waste. It might just keep it in there. And because it's keeping food, it has the potential to rot and become bad. And so one of the smart AI storage mode feature that we have with MUMU, it will manage the inside temperature and the humidity to prevent the food from spoiling and becoming rotten. So we don't want that to happen, and we don't want any bad smells or anything like this. So this is one way to really also manage your food waste while it's not being grinded.
Very interesting and works well. There's also a filter in here to prevent odors from escaping into the room.
Yeah, correct. So throughout the process, you're bound to have some smells, and which is why we really need to have a activated carbon as well. So those are like refills that you can change. And what the activated carbon is going to do is filter out any bad odors or smells that may come out from the processing. So throughout the processing life cycle, as food gets composted, it will emit some odors, but all that will get filtered through the activated carbon so that you end up with no smell in the house.
What kinds of things, you mentioned, food scraps, peelings, etc. But what kinds of things typically would be put in here and what can't be put into this composter?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So you could put in there anything from, lettuce, fruits, like you could also put in tomatoes, banana peels. So anything that's fairly soft, you can go ahead and just throw it in there. The things where we recommend paying a bit more attention is no big bones. So no beef bones, no throwing of pits in there. So some fruits like, apricots, stone fruits that have a pretty big pit. So we don't recommend throwing this inside MUMU. It may scratch the non-stick coating of the bucket that's inside. And you won't have a very good compost at the end because you won't be able to break down some of those things.
And tell us about the end result here. I mean, some people might want to just toss what's left in the trash, and it's a very small amount compared to what went in, right? Or others may want to use it in the garden.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the whole reason why more and more people are opting to get a food processor, a composter, is to really reduce the amount of garbage volume that they output. So let's say you throw in a couple pounds of food waste into your MUMU. The end result will be this very fine powder-like residue. It depends on the food you put in, but most likely it might range from something that is about the size of little pebbles or little rocks. It'll be a very fine dust-like substance, and it will take up very little space. So actually MUMU is able to reduce the volume of the food you put in by up to 95%. And by doing so, you are left with very, very little food waste, and food waste you can actually use for your garden as well.
What are some of the things that differentiate the Blue Vent MUMU from the competition that's out there? There are several others on the market today.
Yeah, so one of the big things we want to make sure as well is trying to keep the appliance, the device, as clean as possible. So we don't want any bacterial growth or fungi growth. And so on the surface of MUMU, there is what we call MOF application, which is a metal organic framework. And what that's going to do is actively prevent the growth of bacteria and the growth of fungi. So it has antibacterial and antifungal properties to really eliminate any potential growth of mold or things like that. And the other really big feature that makes us stand out against the competition is the AI. So like we talked about, we have the AI storage mode and we have the AI automated processing, which will determine when to turn on and when to actively, start the processing so that it's not using too much energy. And those are really some of the big two features that makes us stand out against the competition.
There's a sterilization mode as well, right? When it needs to be cleaned.
Yeah, so every now and then, if you feel like your bucket is due for a little cleaning, there is a sterilization mode. So what you would do then is just empty the bucket from any food waste that could be left in there, and just add some water and then turn it on and select the sterilization mode, and it will heat up the water at boiling temperature to make sure that everything in there is sterilized.
Terrific. For people who are wondering whether or not this is a good thing for the environment, tell us how we weigh this in terms of the energy that's used to create the compost as opposed to just tossing it outside, for instance.
Yeah, so a lot of people are becoming more and more environmentally conscious about their footprint. So they really want to reduce their environmental footprint. And one good way to do that is to reduce the overall volume of garbage and waste that people and families output. And so this is where having an appliance like MUMU really helps, because in some municipalities, people may actually get charged for the amount of volume and weight of garbage that they generate. So if they want to not only help out the environment, but also reduce the cost that they might have to pay towards their garbage collection services, it might be very useful to have an appliance like MUMU. And the other thing is, because we also have a green mode with MUMU, so green mode is processing food waste at the low temperature for a longer time. That results in the very soil-friendly compost. So that compost could actually be used for people who are, who have a hobby gardening and want to grow some vegetables in the backyard, for example. So it's all in all really, really good at reducing volume. And when you think about it, you reduce volume, you also reduce the amount of trips that is needed for trucks to come and pick up your garbage and deposit it into the landfill. So less volume, less waste, and less energy used overall, and less CO2 is actually being emitted as a result.
Tell us about pricing and availability.
Yeah, so in the US, pricing will start at $599.99, and in Canada, it will start at $799.99.
And where can people find it?
People can find the MUMU food composter on Amazon. So Amazon Canada and Amazon.com. And they can also find it on our website at thinkwarestore.com.
And it's spelled MUMU. It's the Blue Vent MUMU. Billy Alexandre, thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thank you very much, Fred. Pleasure to be here.